What was the reason why your friendship ended with someone? He kept having kids with different girls and bailing on them. Coming from a went out for a pack of smokes dad myself, I just couldn't watch it anymore. Bailed after the third one. Think he's up to 6 now. Thanks. It really shook me up. Interesting that he also ended his friendship with a mutual friend when that friend chided him for being rude to a waitress in a coffee shop. He walked out of the coffee shop with a friendship-ending remark. Sadly, this friend had been a real benefactor to him over the years. He sent me a Christmas card the year that I got the letter, but I never reached out to him again. They never bother to go when I initiate and got shit tons of excuses, so I gave up and let them do the planning instead and wait. If you didn't get an invite when they hang out, then you know you're being cut off. This. Always first to initiate everything until I stopped and decided to try and wait how long it will take for her to take action or even start to wonder what's up. Well, next Friday it's gonna be 6 months. That's it for me. I decided to stop calling and see how long it took for them to call me. Other than the week when my mom was dying and they came to say goodbye to her, it's been 21 years. Now instead of best friends, they are just some girls I used to know. It's been several years on that for an entire group of past friends. I have occasionally run across them since and they always say they want to have me over sometime, but never actually contact me. My contact info hasn't changed either. I just assume they're saying it to address their own UILT, not out of any intention of their own. I know for a fact that I will lose some too lol. But I already have very few friends, so it doesn't bother me too much to reach out. What bothers me is that we will have a good time when we hang out and it's like we met yesterday. They say goodbye to me adding, "We should do this more often," or, "I will make sure to ping you first next time," but it still never happens. From the point of view of someone who usually has other people reach out, I don't really have an excuse, but I'm sorry. I kind of forget other people exist when they're not around, and I don't realize how long it's been since we talked. Then I do realize and feel bad about it, but addressing it is awkward, so I'd avoid contacting them for that reason. Then I try to convince myself to just do it, but I'm worried they're busy and I'll be bothering them. Then they contact me, rinse and repeat. I know this all too well. Also those who just never bother showing up to the plans in the first place. I understand everyone has shit going on, and life is crazy, or even sometime you just don't want to go out. But eventually I'm going to need some effort on your end. As Scotty once said, if something is important, you make the time. Had a buddy hit me up, asking why I never invited him to things anymore. I told him because he never went, so I figured he didn't want to go. No malice, we just kind of drifted apart. I honestly feel like half the complaints I see online about how difficult it is to make friends are from people who don't want to put any effort into it. Friendships are pretty easy, but you still need to try. For me, it wasn't even that she didn't initiate, but it was so difficult to get into her calendar. Absolutely no chance for anything spontaneous, and usually I got an appointment at least a week or two ahead. Everything else was always more important. Then I moved away, and now I see her posting pictures with new friends all the time, sometimes several times a week. It was a good month if we met twice even when we were supposedly best friends. So I don't know, maybe her new friends just schedule better, but I feel like they must enjoy more priority now than I used to. This for sure. My former best friend was a habitual liar. She didn't mean anything malicious by it, it's just that her parents were so overly strict and controlling that she became an unrelenting people pleaser where you can never really be certain if she was telling you something because it was true or because she thought that was what you wanted to hear. Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. It's weird how habitual lying develops, though, it seems to quickly go beyond the little, white lies. When I commented, I was thinking of all the embarrassing lunch meetings, etc., my friend would invite me to. Some were business related and my friend would tell me the other party requested the meeting with me. Unfortunately, my friend was telling the other party that I was the one who wanted to meet. It was always confusing and embarrassing. That's just one of many examples. I finally got fed up. I've been there. I was a bad person and lost friendships and family relationships. I tried to apologize to everyone I hurt. I also accepted that they don't want me in their lives anymore. I learned that I made my mistakes, I learned from them, and I accept their choices. I don't self-hate anymore and I try to be a better person in general. I hope you are doing well and practice self-love and forgiveness. I was a bad person and they ended it for perfectly sensible reasons. I would have done the same. I've changed, but I don't blame them for not reconsidering contact. I'm glad to see this was the top response. I've been getting eaten alive by a wave of regrets and fears pertaining to this very issue just out of nowhere the past few days. I've done about 7 years of healing at this point and I have no connection at all to the person I used to be, other than feeling a sense of compassion and empathy for myself back then. We're like two different yet connected people, present self and past person. I lost so much and I'm trying to rebuild and create even better than I could imagine back then, but it's so hard not to be completely sidelined with guilt, shame and regret. How's this for oddly specific? Friend since 1980, was hanging out at a bar in 1992 and there was a dispute of over a $15 bar tab. I was in the right, but whatever, he held a grudge for years. Ran into him in 2017 and we were both too old to care. Started to see each other now and then. 2023 and we're at this local bar for a show and got into a fight about $15 a ticket. Maybe he'll call me in 2063. My wife is extremely good at figuring out when people are toxic. Like I'll be all like, I mean less than thing person said or did greater than was weird but I dunno, and she's already made up her mind that the person in question is likely a terrible person. Then a bit later the person in question does something absolutely awful like gets arrested for domestic violence or something similar. She grew up in an abusive household, so she pretty much just notices when someone reminds her of her toxic family members and so far it's always been right. I try to do the same, notice when someone reminds me of her family, but I'm nowhere near as quick as she is with it. So I've pretty much learned to just accept that if my wife can't stand someone, and I'm not totally sure why yet, it's probably for a good reason and just avoid that person. Avoided going into business with someone based on this who later forced his partner out over petty bullshit, so I guess it's a good strategy. This one I can understand but depends on the situation. Not all of my friends had cars in high school, so our group needed to have me in my shitty, 94 Plymouth Sundance come or they couldn't do anything. I didn't mind at all then, but I definitely would these days. I remember I used to drive around with my buddies all the time before they had licenses. When one of my friends got his in a car I said, "Sweet, now you can drive me around for a bit." He replied that he wasn't gonna waste his money on gas like that. See ya. Haven't really spoken to him since. I'm going through this right now. Can't tell you how many texts I have from her in the past few days telling me that I need to get over myself, need to stop making myself the victim, have been a terrible friend, have never been there for her. She's the most narcissistic person I know and everyone does everything for her. She has one of the easiest lives ever and anytime anything bad happens to her she believes that everyone is against her and she's the victim here. It's pure insanity. There is no talking sense to people like this. She was a taker, constantly. When I needed something she made it about her yet again. Exhausting to be around. I just ended a friendship from high school that was like this. She would drink very heavily and get herself into trouble by crashing her car, wanting to start fights, trying to convince you she was being watched, would drink to the point of having to literally carry her to bed. I finally had it when we had both gone out and she got weird about me talking to this guy we had all been hanging around. I was sent rage texts for the next 2 days and when I told her we should take a break from hanging out after that she pulled the, "Hurts you have to act like this." Thought our friendship meant more. She was incredibly draining when I myself had been going through some tough times. After I cut her out I felt so much better. Yeah, I realized the same about my friend. She had a very easy life but somehow her normal issues with daily life were far more stressful than anyone else could possibly understand. It was always her roommate, manager, other friend, work colleague or whoever else she wanted to blame who was at fault, never ever her and her actions. I don't miss her at all. It was like a heavy blanket lifted off me when I was a few weeks into no contact with her. She consumed so much energy. Yup. My friend used to live a 15-minute drive away. Her place was so much nicer than mine so I'd always go over to her place instead of her coming to mine. When she moved further away, an hour drive, that mentality on her end never changed. It was never, "Oh, I'll come up there and we'll have dinner," from her. It was always, "Let's do dinner. Yay, I know the perfect spot. And it right next door to her new place that mommy and daddy pay for and requires me to drive an hour just to get there." This happened multiple times. She's literally never offered to meet me for drinks, dinner, coffee, lunch, whatever, anywhere close to me. I am the one that always had to make any effort. She needs everything to be easy and convenient for her. I should have taken it as a bigger sign when I realized she had no other friends. Thank you. I don't know what to think. A few months ago, a mutual friend cut off her friendship with him because she got dramatic vibes from him. I know her longer than I know him, so I feel I should have too. I just keep playing these scenarios in my head that could have avoided it. But the other half of me also acknowledges I literally couldn't move while this was going on, while being conscious. There's no way you could have expected your friend to rape you. No one is ever prepared for that situation. Freezing is a common reaction to situations like this, and there may have been something in your drink. Even if there was something you could have done to prevent it, you didn't know there was something you needed to prevent in the first place. Hi there. Thanks for asking. TBH, I really don't know yet. It happened recently. I haven't told anyone and I don't know if I will. My workplace has some free sessions for counseling and I'm about to contact them, see if they'll see my case. Please tell someone and talk this out. Please don't hesitate, as I know some men will on subjects such as this. What was done to you is no reflection on who you are. Some people internalize it and don't tell anyone because they think it will make them less of a man, or something along those lines. Please tell someone and make yourself heal. I am so sorry that happened to you. Many hugs to you. The exact thing happened to me. Went out with my gay friend. He was crashing on my couch for a few weeks. Woke up to him assaulting me. Threw him out. He told all of his friends that we hooked up. I was going through a horrible breakup. 2019 was the worst year of my life. I found out he was a registered sex offender and told everyone I could. My former best friend got married and his posh wife decided that she doesn't want her husband to be seen with less rich people, and he listened to her. The sad fact is, 3 years later her dad filed for bankruptcy and her husband, my former friend, had to look for a new job which pays far less than all of us, his former friends. Some people don't understand that keeping your friends close is good and keeping your enemies closer is better, and yet, some of them make enemies out of their friends, which is really the trump card that brings them down, especially if the friend, you in this case, is willing to torpedo them without hesitation. I am against holding a grudge myself, but I can't judge you, as your feelings are your right of course and what you decide to do is your call. Hey, something sort of similar happened to me. My friend grew up poor and in this shitty apartment complex where we all met and became friends. Goes to college and makes some rich friends from the football team. After marrying his wife, she pulls some shenanigans to completely ostracize him from us, his poor childhood friends, in favor of his rich college friends. That was about 5 years ago and I've seen him maybe twice since then. Miss you, homie. This worst part is, you don't realize it till much later. There's a term for it, covert narcissist. You see them and they act like a best friend, but as soon as you do something good, they have to knock you down a peg to make sure they feel above or better than you. I ended that friendship in October after almost 10 years. From little jabs, to being flat out rude, and making you feel like shit for having advancement in your life. Oh my god, I could have written this verbatim. I got engaged. Friend of 17 years started acting strange. Every time I had a wedding-related event, this person, who struggles in romantic relationships, would knock me down, make insulting comments, tell me things that made me question my other friendships, refuse to show up to various events, complain about literally everything. Then she'd be sweet as molasses to our mutual friends, act like nothing was wrong. Very confusing and hurtful. I took a giant step back from that relationship and started to realize how toxic this person had been to other people in the past, demanding that a friend celebrate her birthday at the friend's bachelorette party, etc. I realized that she has never been able to celebrate people. She makes everything about her. All the time. Covert narcissist. I was so thankful when Sue listened to my sad, depressed ramblings. Then I got my life together. Started new projects, interviewed for interesting stuff, and suddenly she never remembered asking how these things were going, or even if I brought any of this up. It was obvious she didn't remember anything. She used to excitedly listen to stories about all my dating failures, but now that I have a proper relationship, she seldom asks anything about my love life anymore. There was a position open in a different department. I encouraged her to apply and told her I would be applying as well. What was the worst that would happen? They tell us we don't qualify. Up until this point, we had been best friends for 3 years. Hung out with each other's families and saw each other almost every weekend. We found out at the same time. They emailed her letting her know she didn't meet the qualifications. I received a call shortly from HR after they sent her that email asking me which interview time worked best for me. My previous experience is what qualified me. She got mad at me that I got an interview and she didn't. Even contacted HR to ask why I got an interview and she didn't. She stopped talking to me the same day we were both contacted by HR for that position. She deleted me off all social media. I tried to talk to her about it, but she flat out said she no longer wanted to be friends. I didn't get the position, made being at work very awkward for the following 4 years I stayed. She was 35 and I was 34. Grown-ass adults, yet she was acting like a child. Turns out she's one of those that want the best for you as long as it's not better than her. I ended up promoting out of the department and she's still there. Me ghosting them. I tend to lose touch with people when I'm no longer physically within their presence. Like, I lost my high school friends when I went to college. Lost college buddies when I graduated and started working. Lost my close colleagues when pandemic hit and remote work became a thing. Now I have no friends since I rarely leave the house anymore.